Now let's go to Mike Tobin live from El Paso with the latest on this story. Mike.
And Emily, that Afghan migrant you mentioned is indeed in U.S. custody, but only after roaming free for about 11 months and being apprehended 2 times. A federal source tells our David Spunt Mohammed Carwin crossed into the U.S. at San Ysidro in March of 23. At the time, he was not on a terror watch list, so he was released. However, Carwin reportedly is a member of Hezb-e-Islami, an anti-Western group responsible for the deaths of 9 American soldiers and civilians. He was picked up again in February, but information about his radical connections, for reasons unknown, was not presented to the judge, so Carwin was released on bail. He was picked up again last night, DHS stated, as soon as there was information to suggest that this individual was of concern. He was taken into custody by ICE. Meantime, agents in the El Paso sector have already raided 136 stash houses, which is nearly half of the total from last year. Agents say they worry about the ones they don't apprehend.
What worries me is that we know nothing about these migrants that are being kept at these stash houses. We know absolutely nothing about them. They could be dangerous criminals. They can be sex predators, child rapists.
This morning, our cameras found upwards of 30 migrants who arrived at the wall here in El Paso. And judging by the way they put on a show for the cameras, they are confident they will make it in. Here in the El Paso sectors, the agents say they're seeing about 1,000 encounters per week with people crossing to the U.S. side. Emily?
Thank you, Mike. Now, this story comes less than 24 hours after FBI Director Christopher Wray warned of a possible terror attack in the U.S., similar to the one that ISIS-K carried out at a Russian concert hall just weeks ago.
We've seen the threat from foreign terrorists rise to a whole nother level. Our most immediate concern has been that individuals or small groups will draw some kind of twisted inspiration from the events in the Middle East to carry out attacks here at home.
Paul, a frightening revelation that has been, frankly, years in the making, but it seems to have accelerated in recent months.
Yeah, it really does. And you know what's upsetting to somebody like me? I did about 15 years of counterterrorism, sat in a task force, saw these kinds of cases, and this is how these cases are launched. You get somebody in country. Think about it in reverse. What if you had to do an operation inside Afghanistan, inside Iran? Well, of course, you can't just show up there. You need somebody to get there, learn the ropes, all of that stuff. So the idea that we have a southern border that's open to this kind of infiltration, where people can do that kind of recon, is really upsetting. Secondly, according to the reporting and the statements from DHS, they went in front of the immigration judge twice. And the second time, they couldn't hold this guy because they said, well, we didn't want to tell the judge that he was on a terror watch list because it was classified. Number one, that's BS. That's just not accurate. You can say that. You don't have to give up sources and methods, but you can say, this guy's on a watch list, he's really concerning. If you can't do that, what do we have the system for? And this is the siloing that got us 9/11. We have intel. We can't tell people in the government about it. Preposterous. Something's broken. It's on Mayorkas. This guy's got to fix it. And there's a reason he's up on impeachment.
And part of the reason Christopher Wray was testifying before Congress was to get more money to the FBI. Do you think it's going to work? Do you think more money would assuage the silo issues Paul just said?
No, it's the same reason that money that Alejandro Mayorkas wants is just more agents to process people coming across the border. They have, just in this one instance, you think about the suspect Carwin. The DHS, when he crossed the border initially, suspected that he might be a terrorist, but they did not detain him. All right, let's start. He should have been deported immediately, but they didn't detain him because this is Biden's catch and release. They told the suspect, oh, you can just check in on an app on your phone. And then it takes the FBI almost a year to identify that he was associated with a terror group that had killed 9 American soldiers and civilians over a period of 2 years. And then, as Paul pointed out, they go in front of a judge, the DHS attorneys, and they don't tell the judge that he's on the terror watch list. And they also didn't tell the judge, appeal the judge's decision to release him. Now he's been arrested. So where does this put us? 10 million plus illegals have come into this country. The national security threat to this nation is unknowable and incalculable. And we actually, as American citizens, just have to sit back and wait for something horrific to happen.
Carly, and the second thing, and all of it, I mean, it truly makes me feel sick to my stomach. It's terrifying. And the second thing Christopher Wray wanted, in addition to money, was to expand FISA Section 702. They want to essentially be able to spy on foreign nationals overseas. So Congress is divided on how to treat this. But what I'm hearing and what is so frightening is that no amount of anything will help, because the genie's been let out of the bottle, that the flood across the southern border has been so great now for so long, thanks to Biden, that all of this is too great to put back, to cull back, and to try to attempt to identify in the unknowable fear mongering.
Yeah, and really what FBI Director Christopher Wray, it's not that he wanted to expand 702. What he really wants to do is just renew that authority that the FBI already has, which is critically important. And he is right to say, at this time, we need all the tools in our toolbox to fight all of these threats. I mean, just think about what happened in Idaho this week, where an 18-year-old pledged allegiance to ISIS, came up with this plot to murder people at a church in his hometown. And the FBI thankfully found out about that, arrested him. So that threat has been taken off the map. But there are so many others. Like Dagan says, it does feel like you just have to sit back and watch. And one of the things, I mean, the details for this story are unbelievable from start to finish. And just taking it from the beginning, the reason this terrorist was allowed into our country is because he wasn't originally on the FBI terror watch list. And I was talking to a former FBI agent who says that happens a lot right now, because the FBI terror watch list is incomplete. There's no way that it could be complete, because people get radicalized all the time. You're 15, 16, 17 years old. You join a terror organization in your country. You come to the United States, claim asylum, and you're in. So if you want an argument against catch and release, there it is. The other thing is that the Biden administration is allowing illegal immigrants to fly around the country without an ID. And if they don't think bad actors are going to try and exploit that, then they have another thing coming. So there is so much bubbling up to the surface right now, and I am constantly stunned by the national security threat that we are under right now. Everybody knows it, and nothing is being done to change that current situation.
Well, you know, and this comes at a time where people are chanting death to America in Dearborn, Michigan. As well. Look, this isn't a product of a broken system. This is a system working as Joe Biden and the left intended. We've now arrived at a scenario where the needs of illegal aliens supersede that of Americans, as well as our safety right now. And Democrats' policies have created this powder keg moment where we have a record number of illegal border crossings. We have a record number of terrorists on the watch list being caught at the southern border, which means that we have a record number not being caught that are entering the United States at a time where there's war in the Middle East, there's war in Europe, right? Massive instability around the world. So there's this powder keg moment that the left has created. And why? Is it for cheap labor when you look at the fact that Joe Biden's job numbers are fueled by foreign-born people? Or is it for, voting when you have Congresswoman Yvette Clarke saying that she needs more migrants in her district for redistricting purposes? When you look at how that shapes the congressional apportionment as well as the Electoral College as well. So I don't know. I think Americans around the country should be asking themselves, why are Democrats putting us at risk? What's behind that? Why are they allowing this to happen? Because that's exactly what they're doing, is they're putting us all at risk.
That's right. Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.